Okay, let's get started here. Got 26 folks and maybe some more will come in. Um, so let me just move some things on my screen around here. Usually I have Don Waddell with me. He was going to show up, but didn't. So going to be doing a lot of clicking here. Okay, so welcome, folks. This is your Rules Clinic, your 2024 Richmond Rules Clinic. I'm Jim Rose. I'm on staff on District 4. I'm the Assistant District Administrator for training, and I'm also the Assistant UIC for softball, and I'm the UIC for Martinez softball. So what I'm going to ask you is that you keep yourself on mute for this clinic. And at the very end, I will be happy to go live and talk with anybody who wants to stick around and ask me any questions or make comments or whatever. The clinic is being recorded, and like all District 4 rules clinics, the video will be posted on our District 4 YouTube page. If you didn't know we had one, we have one. And it'll be linked in from the District 4 website. So that URL, the first one, California District 4 Little League, that is District 4's website. And then the YouTube at C4UA is our YouTube channel. There's going to be 3 question periods that are inserted into the presentation with a slide that reads questions. So what I would like you to do is type your questions into the chat function. Don't send them to Don Waddell because he didn't show up to the meeting. So just you can make them out to everybody or make them out just to me, that's fine. And I will 3 times during this presentation, I'll stop, I'll answer the questions that you have. If you don't understand how to use the chat function and need to just unmute yourself and ask during that question period, please go right ahead. So if something comes up, you have a question, type it into chat so you won't forget about it. Okay, what about that video recording? Well, when this is all done, it will be posted on our YouTube page. So how do you get access to that? Well, go to our District 4 Little League webpage, and you'll see on the side the red arrow that says D4 umpires. If you click on that, it'll take you to this page, and you click on CA D4 umpire training videos. Click on that, and there'll be a link that will bring you to the YouTube page. Or you could just go directly to our YouTube page at C4UA. And you'll see it says Little League rules trainings. These are from last year. We're going to run more Little League rules trainings, and they will be posted this year. So there's a lot of really good, useful stuff here for you to avail yourself of. So what are we going to do with this clinic? Well, this is a rules and game management clinic for umpires, managers, coaches, staffs, and players, but it is mostly aimed at managers and coaches, which I assume that most of you are. It's going to introduce you also to the new 2024 playing rules. And we're going to introduce you to the 2024 interleague rules for baseball and for softball. And at the end, we're going to be covering coach conduct, pregame procedures, and errors to try to avoid, and some key safety issues. So I want to let you know about rules resources that we have in District 4. We're going to go through interleague rules, but we can't go through all the rules. It takes just too long. So District 4 runs 4 75-minute rules presentations each year. And this year they're going to be on Thursdays in February, starting February 8th. And you can see on each one of those dates the various rules that we will be going through, and those are on Zoom. And then we have two other rules clinics that we run. We run another Zoom clinic, and that's teenage baseball rules. So if you're coaching um, in the intermediate or junior baseball, you'll want to attend that. And if you're doing interleague, which you folks are doing, you will be required to attend that. And that is a Zoom clinic also. For those softball folks, we have a in person. This is the only rules clinic we do in person on Monday, February 26th, a softball rules clinic, and that's in Concord. No registration is required, just show up. But again, if you're doing Little League, you will be required to go to Interleague, you will be required to go to that clinic also. So how do you register for these clinics if you want to attend them, the Zoom sessions? Well, again, go to our homepage and you'll see on that homepage, Umpire Online Training. And it says umpire, but these clinics are designed for coaches, managers, staff, parents, anybody who wants to attend, but also umpires. So please register for those. Okay, we're going to talk a lot about rules today, so I want to make sure that you understand the various types of rules because sometimes we play games and it's like, well, what rules are you going by? You know, that's not one of the rules. So there's actually 4 different types of rules that are important to us in Little League. So the first one is the official playing rules. And the official playing rules are in rule books. There's a rule book for softball, a rule book for baseball, and a rule book for challenger. And in that are the official playing rules. There's regulations that covers things such as mandatory play, pitching, decorum, which you shouldn't do. And also it covers the rules of the game, and they're divided up into 9 parts. If you ever want to go through that rule book, and as a coach, you really should, I would recommend that you read through that entire rule book. It'll take you a bit of time, but just set off a little bit of time each day to go through that. I would highly recommend that you start with Rule 2. This is the definition of terms. And for a lot of the other rules, you won't be able to understand them until you understand what the terms mean. So start off with Rule 2 and then just slowly work yourself through the other rules. You may be getting a hard copy from your league, but what I would highly recommend that you all do is to download the rule book app onto your smartphone, whether you have an Android or you have an iPhone. This is a free download and you can see what you get. You get all 3 rule books, and then you can pick a rule that you want to go into and it'll have those rules. What's wonderful about this rule app is that each and every year it will automatically update if rules are changed. So get it on your phone. You'll never have to download it again, and it's free. So please do that. So those are the official playing rules. Then we have something called local rules, and Richmond probably has its own set of local rules. Umpire in Martinez, we have our own local rules. And local rules cover areas in the Little League rule book in which options are given to the league within the rule book. For example, are you going to use the 15, the 10, and or the 8-run rule? You're actually allowed in junior baseball to use an 80-foot base paths and not 90-foot if you want. There aren't a lot of these. There's about 10 to 15 of them. If you folks in Richmond want a list of what they are, just please contact me and I will send those to you. Don and I worked on those a couple years ago, identifying those parts of the rule book that local leagues should decide and make their local rules based on what the options are. The thing about local rules is you can't just make up rules. So say your pitchers are struggling and you go, you know what, we're going to move the pitching rubber closer to the home plate. That violates Little League rules, and you can't do that. if you want to change a rule that's in the Little League rule book, you need to get a waiver. And that is your president has to write a letter, send it to Ted Boett, the District 4 administrator. He'll send it on the Western region, and then it goes on to Little League headquarters. So those are local rules. Then we have interleague rules. And if you'll see, these are in purple. And throughout this presentation, whenever you see purple, you know we're dealing with interleague rules. So districts like District 4 can establish interleague programs in which teams from different leagues play each other. And District 4 has interleague programs for softball and baseball, minors all the way through senior division softball. And you can find the interleague rules at these URLs, and these are linked at the District 4 webpage. And by the way, when I get done with this, you not only will have a copy, recorded copy that you can access on YouTube, but I'll make this presentation into a PDF. I will send it to Eva, and Eva, you can be free to distribute it to anybody you want in your league. So you'll have all of these links there. So if you go to our District 4 website, you look on the side, Little League Baseball, Teenage Baseball, Softball. If you click on each one of those, hold on one second, got somebody joining. There we go. If you click on those, it will take you to another web page, and there you'll find the interleague rules. This is the softball interleague rules. If you notice, they're from 2023, but we just haven't updated them. They probably will be updated in a week or so. And then if you click on the Little League Baseball or the Teenage Baseball, you will come to these pages. And these have already been updated with the 2024 rules. These are important pages to bookmark because you'll also have your schedules listed there, any changes to the schedules. You'll have links to the Big Diamond field locations, to the pitching logs. So good idea to bookmark those. Okay, so we've gone through official playing rules, we've gone through local rules, we've gone through interleague rules. Now there's also something called ground rules. And ground rules cover rules that govern a particular field of play. So at Richmond, you have a number of different fields, and each one of those fields should have its own set of ground rules. And they should be written down, and they should actually be on your website. So anybody who's going to visit your field can know ahead of time what the ground rules are. And those ground rules determine things particular to that field. Where is the dead ball area? If a fence doesn't extend all the way, do you play a fence line extended? Or what if you have a tree like at Martinez that overhangs part of the field? What do you do in that case? Well, those ground rules will list, well, if a ball hits that tree, we do this. Those ground rules should also be gone over at the beginning of each game. I see a hand there for a question. We're going to wait until the question period. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to new rules for 2024. So there actually aren't that many rules this year, new rules, but there are a couple that are important. The first one is not really a rule, but it's a regulation. And Little League wants to protect players. They want to protect players from abuse. And that abuse is not just sexual abuse, but it's also verbal abuse. It's bullying. It's being yelled at. Little League is getting very, very serious about that. So starting this year, for the first time, if you are a volunteer for Little League and you're required to fill out a volunteer form, and all managers and coaches have to fill them out, and if you umpire more than a couple games, you also have to fill them out. You need to complete an abuse awareness training provided by USA Baseball. And that training must be dated after October 1st, 2023. So beginning in 2024, this year, that training must be completed each and every year. So you might be wondering, well, how do I get to that training? Maybe your league already provided you that information. But if they didn't, here's an easy way to get to that training. Again, go to our District 4 Little League page. So there's a lot of information here. Please bookmark it. On the side, you'll see Little League forms. Go to those Little League forms, click on it, and it'll take you to a forms page. And from there, you'll see abuse awareness training. And click on that abuse awareness training, and it will take you to the USA Baseball site. This is what it'll look like, and you need to sign in. If you've never signed in before, you're going to need to create a password and register with them. It's not a big deal. So once you register, you will then be able to come up to this page. Click on Education. After you click on Education, it'll take you to this page. Click on Courses, and then it will take you to a page that has a series of trainings. This is the one you want: Abuse Awareness for Adults, Base Certification. Click on that, and it's a free class. It basically, you just do it by yourself. It takes about 30 minutes to do, but it's required of all volunteers this year. So please get on that. Okay, there's one other regulation I just wanted to make note of that, and this is new this year too. All leagues must create a policy on one-on-one contact. So Little League is getting a lot more strict with this. The days of, there's a player that's you go, hey, I'll give you a ride home, or that you're alone with them on the field, nobody else is around. Those days are now gone. So Little League is very serious about this. So if you go to regulation Roman numeral 1, number 13, you could read through this, and it'll talk about what you can and can't do with players. And this is probably one of the most important ones. The volunteers' interactions with players must be observable and interruptible by another adult. In other words, you're not going to be alone with the kids. There's got to be another adult, whether they're with you or they're around, that if an adult sees something wrong, they can interrupt what's going on. So I just wanted to highlight that and make you aware of that. So what about the actual new rules that we have this year? Well, there's actually only 2 changes in the regular season playing rules, and they're both in softball. Leaping is now allowed. It's legal for a pitcher to leap. This used to be illegal in Little League. So both feet can now be in the air at the same time during the pitching motion, as long as those feet stay within the 24 width of the pitcher's plate and the pivot foot does not replant and push off. That's what we call a crow hop. So here is a video that shows what is now legal. This is a legal pitching motion in Little League. See, both feet off at the same time. But notice that she does not replant and push off with her back foot. Same here. Once in the air, okay, this is where she pushes off. She doesn't replant and push off. But you can have both feet in the air. What still remains illegal is the crow hop. And what the crow hop is simply you reestablish another pivot and push off from that new pivot. This is a crow hop, and this is still illegal in softball.
Combo of what makes Kelly Bartnell so successful. Look at the way she drives off of the mound. Her right foot drives her so far forward. And then when that left foot plants, it stops everything. So her entire power is right there in the middle of her body. So efficient, so strong. That's why we
notice what's happening. She goes forward, and she replanted, and now she's pushing off from that new plant. That is still illegal in softball. Okay, the only other rule change in regular season is in senior league softball. That is, we're getting rid of the DH, the designated hitter, and we're replacing it with the DP flex. This is only in senior league. It's only if you bat 9, and it is completely optional. I'm not going to talk about this new change because, quite frankly, even with the DH, I think all the years I umpired Little League softball, I only saw it used once. So if you want to read up on the rule on that, please go ahead. And if you have any individual questions at another time, email me about that. Okay, there's only one other change, and this only affects all-stars, and it affects all levels of play below senior division. And it basically says, for the purposes of an at-bat, Rule 2 does not apply. Well, what does this all mean? During the regular season, if we have a player who steps into the batter's box for the first time in the game, that player must complete that at-bat. They must complete their at-bat, and if they get on base, they must run the bases. They can't be replaced by a courtesy runner, for example. All this says is when we get to all-stars, you will be able to, once that batter gets on a base, they will be able to be replaced the first time with a courtesy runner. So that's something we'll talk about when we get closer to all-stars. It's not a rule that affects us in regular season. Okay, we're going to go through this interleague rules for baseball, and then we'll have our first question and answer period. So let's go through the 2024 interleague rules. And listen, because most leagues are getting smaller, don't have as many teams, especially majors and above, most teams are playing interleague. So these rules are what you will be playing under. So again, whatever I say here applies to all levels of interleague, minors through juniors in baseball, unless I specifically state otherwise. So remember those links. So that'll take you to here. There's where you can look up. And I would say, if you're a coach or a manager, print out the interleague rules. Keep them with you at all times. Okay. So what are the interleague rules? Well, we're going to be playing by the book rules, but we're also going to be using the District 4 interleague rules. Remember where the book gives you options. The interleague, the heads of the interleague have decided what those options will be. There can be no manager agreements. In other words, and no local rules. In other words, you show up to play an interleague game, you will be playing by interleague rules. You cannot at the plate meeting talk with the other coach and say, hey, let's get rid of that rule for today, okay? You can't do that. Ground rules should be established prior to the game and reviewed at the plate meeting. Umpires, the home team needs to provide 2 umpires, at least one of which will be 18 years of age. In other words, one of the umpires will be an adult. Let's be realistic here. There are many times where games are umpired by one umpire because that's all we could get. Do it. Have just one umpire. We want the kids to play. We also are realistic in understanding that there are times when you may not have an adult umpire. You may only have 1 or 2 youth umpires. We prefer that doesn't happen, but if it happens, it happens. But what cannot be ignored is if there is no adult umpire present, only youth umpires, the home team must provide a game coordinator per Rule 903D. And basically, that's an adult who's going to be at that field, not at that complex, not doing other things, not in the score shack, not in the snack shack, but is devoted solely to looking out for the well-being of that youth umpire and will be there the entire game. If that doesn't happen, then there should not be a game. Listen, it's unfortunate, but there is too much abuse of youth umpires, and we absolutely want it all to stop. Number of players. You can begin or continue a game with 8 players on a team. You can't go any lower than that. If you have only 8 players, the 9th spot in the batting order is simply skipped over. We're going to use a continuous batting for juniors all the way through down to minors. That means you can have free substitutions on defense. You can play defense 1 inning, sit the next inning, defense the next inning, sit the next inning. You don't have to tell the umpire who's playing defense. All the players who are on your team are in the batting order. If a player cannot continue in the game, say they get sick or they have to leave for something else, you simply skip over that batting order spot. It's not counted as an out. And if that player is able to return, they simply go back into the same spot in the batting order. What if you have a player that gets on base and injures themselves on bases? You simply substitute that runner with the player who made the last out. 1 foot in the batter's box, and all the penalties will be enforced minors through juniors. I would recommend this is one of those areas where you should look at our rules presentations on District 4 on this. Basically, when a batter steps in the batter's box, they have to stay in the batter's box with at least 1 foot unless a certain things happen. I'll give you the shorthand way of thinking about it. When a batter's in the batter's box and the pitch is pitched, if it's a called strike or a ball, and the catcher catches the ball, and the pitcher stays near the pitching mound, and no other plays happen, the batter has to stay in the box. Courtesy runners. Courtesy runners are allowed for all levels of baseball. It's only for the pitcher or catcher of record. That phrase of record is very important because what that means is you can only courtesy run for the catcher and pitcher who you can only run for the catcher or pitcher who are the catcher or pitcher the previous half inning. And who is the courtesy runner? It's going to be the player who made the last out. In the minor division only, we have a half inning is 3 outs or 5 runs are scored. The run rule is waived in the 6th and any subsequent inning, meaning you can have unlimited runs. If the umpire says, hey, because of darkness, we're only going to get 4 innings in here, you do not go to the unlimited runs in the 4th inning. It can only happen in the 6th and subsequent innings. In interleague baseball, in minors and majors, and intermediate seniors or juniors, we will be using a run rule, which is if one team is ahead by at least 15 runs after 3 innings, 2.5 if the home team is leading, or ahead by 10 runs after 4 innings, or 8 runs after 5 innings, the opposing manager shall concede defeat. And there are no exceptions to this to allow the game to continue. So again, you can't have a manager's agreement. Oh, we only got 2.5 innings in. Hey, do you want to keep playing? If you want to have a scrimmage, go right ahead, but it's not an official game. And if you have umpires, they will be advised to leave the field. At the intermediate and junior level, the run rule, just to add one inning to what we just went through. 15 runs after 4, 10 runs after 5, 8 runs after 6. Again, no exceptions. We're also, with interleague games, going to have a time limit. Minors and majors is 2 hours, intermediate and juniors, 2 hours and 15 minutes. So what is the time limit? It's not a drop dead. So any inning that begins prior to 2 hours or 2 hours and 15 minutes for the intermediate and juniors will be completed, the entire inning. But no new inning will begin after that time limit has been hit. So if you're in the middle of the 4th inning and you hit 2 hours, you complete the 4th inning, but you do not start the 5th inning. All games called for a time limit are considered regulation games. So even if that game only gets 2 innings in, because it's a time limit game, it is a regulation game. And if the game ends in a tie, the game will not be continued at a later date. It's just too much of a hassle with interleague to reschedule these games. Pitching rules, absolutely by the book. Interleague pitching rules will be played by the official Little League pitching rules. If you want to know what those pitching rules are, go to 2 places in the rule book, Regulation 6 and Rule 8, and that's where you'll find everything about pitching. There's only one exception, and that is in District 4 Interleague, we require a pitching log. And each manager needs to be able to produce that pitching log and shows who pitched, when, and what the pitch count was and the threshold for their team. If you show up to the game and you have no pitching log and you can't produce it, that means that each and every one of your pitchers is going to be limited to just 20 pitches. Pitch 20 pitches, we replace that pitcher. Pitch 20 pitches, that pitcher is replaced. So please make sure you have that pitching log, keep it up to date, and bring it to each and every game. If there is no pitching log that can be produced and the opposing manager believes that an ineligible pitcher was used, in other words, that manager says, hey, wait a second, I was told by my other coach in my league that this pitcher pitched on Tuesday the whole game, and now it's Thursday. That pitcher shouldn't be allowed to pitch. That opposing manager can file a protest. And listen, this is important. Why is it important? Because it is about protecting the arms of those pitchers. So this is that pitching log. Make sure you have it. You're going to, through the season, obviously have to copy off a number of those, and you'll be putting down each game you play and all the pitchers that pitched, the number of pitches they threw, and the threshold. The threshold is basically what was that number that they started the last batter with. Okay, we have our question period here. So let me go through to see if we have any questions so far. Okay, somebody asked, can you explain the threshold concept again? There are a number of areas that we use something called a threshold. And that is that if you start pitching to a player and you hit a number that you shouldn't go over, you can actually go over that number if you started pitching to that batter before you hit that number. So in other words, if you pitch 20 or fewer pitches in a game, you don't have to have a day of rest. You can pitch the next day. But if you start a batter at 19, you can go over that 20 because you started that batter below 20. You can go over 20 and say you pitch 26 pitches, then that's what is called the threshold. So your threshold would be 19, not 26, what you ended with. So this is very relevant when we decide days of rest, when we also decide what's the maximum number of pitches a pitcher could pitch. Majors, typical majors is going to be 85 pitches. Well, if they started pitching to a batter before 85, they can continue to pitch to that batter. But once that batter gets on base or is out, and another batter comes up, then we have to replace that pitcher. Eva and Antonio, you have a question.
Yeah, so it's more of a, I think it's a clarification, and I'm saying it because I've been to some fields where, you know, the coaches or the coach thinks that, you know, when we say local rules, that means if you come to our home, you're gonna follow our rules that we use within our league. The local rule just means that if we're having two of our double A teams playing each other, they're both Richmond Little League teams, we can use these specific rules that, you know, the Little League International allows us. But that doesn't mean that if we go to somebody's home and they say, no, these are our house rules, that doesn't mean that's not true. We're playing interleague. If we're going to somebody's house or they're coming to our house, we have to follow the interleague rules.
Absolutely, Evan. That's why I say print out a copy of those rules. And if you go to another field and they say, hey, listen, we don't go by that rule. We go by this rule here. We don't do a 2-hour time limit. We don't have time limits. Pull out those rules. Ultimately, if they keep at it and say, no, this is what we play by, you can play the game under protest. Make sure that you let somebody know. At the very end of this presentation, I'll have a number of contacts of folks that you can contact about various issues. Good point. I would recommend, and leagues can do whatever they want, but in Martinez, when we have in-house games, we play by interleague rules, just so our players are used to the same rules each and every time. Do we have any other questions? At this point, we'll have 2 more question periods. Okay, let's move on and just type them into the chat function there, or the next time I have the questions, you can raise your hand or unmute yourself. Okay, so let's go through softball interleague rules. These are actually a little bit more complicated because the double and triple A have different rules. We also have different pitching rules. So once again, you know, the rules are posted. And as I go through these, know that the interleague rules apply to all levels of interleague. That should say softball, not baseball. Minors, what just happened here? Actually, minors through seniors. I'm going to have to correct that before I send this out to you. Okay, here are those interleague rules, and we will be updating those probably within a week or so. And also down below, there's the pitching log. Click on that. You can download the pitching log. Okay. Just like for baseball, softball, interleague rules, we're going to play by the rule book, and where those options exist, District 4 interleague rules, there will be no manager agreements, ground rules again, established and gone over before the game at the plate meeting. All levels, you can play with 8 players. You can start with or continue with 8 players. Simply skip over that spot in the batting order if you do use 8 players. Now, this is something new that we're going to be using this year for the very first time, and we're going to see how it goes. And maybe some folks won't like it. Other folks will love it. But for all levels of softball, including minors, majors, and seniors. A half inning ends when 3 outs are made or 5 runs have been scored. So what this means is this is a rule that's usually only used in the minors, but we're going to try it in majors and senior softball this year. And again, only the 6th inning or the 7th inning, if you're in seniors, and subsequent innings will be unlimited. Why are we doing this? We had a number of very, very lopsided games last year in which teams were basically so far behind by the 1st inning that they were demoralized. We had a lot of new pitchers in various leagues who had trouble pitching, and they got very discouraged. So what we're doing is we're going to limit those innings to just 5 runs. We'll see how this goes. This is an experiment. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll talk about it at the end of the season. Please give your feedback to Phil Raines, who heads softball, on this one. Okay, all levels, we're going to have time limits. Minors is 1 hour 45, majors is 2 hours, seniors is 2 hours 15. This is exactly the same thing as I went through for baseball. Time limits are you complete an inning if it starts before the time limit. If it's after the time limit, then you cannot start another time limit game. We're not going to be making up games that end in a tie, and all games ending by the time limit will be a regulation game. Ending the game, exactly the same as I went through for baseball. For majors and minors, 15 runs after 3 innings, 10 after 4, 8 runs after 5 innings, no exceptions. If you're playing senior league, it's going to be 15 runs after 4, 10 after 5, 8 after 6. Batting order. In the minors and majors, just like in baseball, we're going to have a continuous batting order. So that means free substitutions on defense. If a player can't continue in the game, skip them over in the spot. It's not counted as an out. Injured player on the bases is substituted by the runner or by the player who made the last out. Senior division, however, it's the only division of interleague that will have this. The batting order will consist of 9 players, and we will follow the substitution rules per Rule 303. Courtesy runners. There's no courtesy runner in minors. In majors and seniors, a courtesy runner is allowed. It's for the pitcher or catcher of record with 2 outs, just like in baseball. And in the major division, it's the player who made the last out. It changes in the senior division. It has to be a player who's not in the lineup, who is sitting on the bench at the time. And a player cannot run for both the catcher and the pitcher. So a player can run for the catcher, but then if you need a runner for the pitcher 2 innings later, that same player can't run for the pitcher. Special pinch runner, not allowed in majors and minors. It's not allowed in baseball, but it is allowed in seniors. Why? Because we bat 9 in seniors. It can be used once per inning. It's a player who is not in the lineup, and a player cannot be special pinch run for more than once in a game. You can only do it for once for a particular player. Foot in the batter's box, not enforced in the minors. It will be enforced in the majors and seniors. Uncaught third strike, that the third strike is not caught, the runner can run to first base. Not used in minors. It isn't used. It is used in the majors and seniors. Stealing of signs. Stealing of signs is when you have a runner at second base who's looking to see where the catcher is lining up and then trying to, give a signal, to the batter of what that is. This policy won't be enforced in minors, except if we see it, we're going to stop it immediately. But in the majors and seniors, we're going to follow the policy of the first time it happens, there's a warning. The second time it happens, there's an ejection. This is considered unsportsmanlike conduct in Little League. Okay, here are some rules that are only in AA and AAA. You can only have 9 players on defense. The reason I write this in here is because if it was non-competitive minors, you can actually have your whole team on defense if you want. But this is considered competitive interleague, so therefore you can only have 9 players on defense. A regulation game is 2 innings. Outfielders must remain in the outfield until the ball is hit. Know that the outfield isn't necessarily where the grass begins. For those of you who have ever played at Martinez, at Hidden Lakes upper field, you will know that there is a long distance from home plate to the grass. And if you're in AA and you actually line your girls up in the outfield on the grass, they are far, far too far away from home plate. So this is up to the umpire's judgment about where the outfield actually is. It's recommended that if a pitcher hits 3 batters in an inning or 5 in a game, that the pitcher is replaced. This is only recommended. Why? Because there is no rule in the rule book for that. But listen, this is kind of common sense. You don't want some girl to get, really upset because she keeps hitting players and hurting them. You also, if you have a pitcher that keeps hitting the other team, you're going to make the other team not want to bat. So listen, this is a recommendation. You don't have to do it, but we would really highly recommend it. Okay, in AA softball, there are no bunts for the first half of the season. There are no bunts when an adult pitches. There are no stealing of bases allowed. And there are no walks allowed. We will talk in a minute about what you do if you get 4 balls on a batter. In AAA, there are no bunts or steals when the adult pitches. And in the first half of the season, 1 base advance per steal. In other words, if you are on first base and you steal second, the ball's thrown and it goes out in the outfield, you have to stay at second base. That's in the first half of the season for AAA. Okay, let's go through some pitching rules here. For minors, AA and AAA, 3 innings is the maximum a pitcher can pitch in a game. No restriction on innings per week, because if you do 3 in a game, you're not going to pitch 7 games in a week. So don't worry about it. No rest required. But we're limiting the minor league pitchers to 3 innings. No 12-year-old may pitch in the minors. Majors. In majors, a pitcher is limited to 12 innings in a game. Let's hope our games don't go to 12 innings. It would be really difficult to do that with a time limit. But hey, prove me wrong. If a pitcher pitches more than 6 innings, then they must have 1 day of rest. No restrictions on how much they can pitch in a week. Okay, what about pitching in back-to-back games? What is a back-to-back game? A back-to-back game is considered a game, and then the next played game, no matter how much time is between those games, if it's the next day or 10 days from then. If a pitcher pitches 4 innings or less in one game, the very next game, they can still pitch up to 12 innings. If, however, they pitch 5 innings or fewer, they cannot pitch more than 4 innings in the next game. So why do we have this rule? We want to develop pitchers. This is actually not in the rule book. This is an interleague rule. We want you to develop more pitchers. Coaches and managers misunderstand this a lot of times. When I have my plate meeting and I asked the coach, the manager, do you have any pitching restrictions? Many times the manager will say, no, we don't have any restrictions because we haven't played in 7 days. Well, it doesn't matter. If your last game 7 days ago, your pitcher pitched 6 innings, she is going to be limited to no more than 4 innings in that game. Again, we're just trying to get you to develop more pitchers. What about senior division? Senior division, you can pitch 12 innings in a game. No days of rest are required, unlike for majors. No restrictions on how many innings that you pitch in a week. And again, we have that back-to-back games. A senior game is 7 innings, but if you pitch 5 or fewer innings, you can pitch the complete next game up to 12 innings. If you pitch 6 or more innings, then you have to pitch no more than 5 innings the next game. Again, back-to-back game, it's when you play your next game, not how many days in between. Okay, we have some slides here on pitching for double and triple A. So for double A, no, during the first half of the season, you're only going to have adults pitching. There are going to be no kids pitching. How do your players develop pitching? You should be doing that during practices. And the adult will pitch at 35 feet. We want to get those batters used to the ball coming in from 35 feet. Double A second half of the season, and write this date down, April 13th, it's a Saturday, that's when we begin the second half of the season. For that second half of the season, we're going to have a kid pitch, and that kid is going to pitch to that batter until that batter strikes out or hits the ball fair or hits the batter or gets 4 balls on the batter. And if either of those things happen, then the adult will come in to pitch and will take the strike count as there is. If the youth pitcher got 2 strikes on the batter and then got 4 balls, the adult will come in, that batter will still have 2 strikes on them. The adult will pitch until the batter strikes out, hits the ball fair, or the adult pitches 5 pitches. And it doesn't matter if they strike out or don't hit the ball. If the adult pitches 5 pitches and the last pitch is not a foul ball, that's going to be an out. AAA pitching. AAA pitching for the first half of the season. Again, that's everything before April 13th. So the kid is going to pitch to the batter until the batter strikes out, hits the ball fair, or again, the bases get loaded. This is where it's different. You can actually, as a kid in AAA, you can walk batters, but we're not going to walk batters in. So if the bases get loaded and there's 4 balls on the batter or the batter gets hit, then that is when the adult comes in with the existing strike count. Same thing as before. Batter's going to strike out, hit the ball fair, or 5 pitches. In the second half of the season for AAA, beginning April 13th, only kid pitch. There will not be any adult pitching. And runs may be walked in. So you may have a walkathon in the second half of the season. Hopefully not, but it's possible. Okay, do we have any questions on softball? Okay. Can you review quickly the mandatory play rules? Absolutely. And this is something we cover a lot in the rules clinics, but very important to know. What is mandatory play? Mandatory play for Little League, all levels in the regular season, is that a player bats at least once during the game and plays 6 defensive outs. The 6 defensive outs do not have to be consecutive. And if you're in the minors or playing softball this year, and a team scores 5 runs and no outs have been made, and the half inning ends, that's the equivalent of 3 defensive outs. What then happens if you have a player that does not get 6 defensive outs or 1 at bat? That player is required to start the next game and then meet their mandatory play from the game they didn't get their mandatory play in. So say you have a player, you play a game, and say the player gets an at bat but only gets 3 defensive outs. You then need to start that player the next game. They need to get their 3 defensive outs, and they need to stay in the game until they get their mandatory play for that game. The reason this rule is set up this way is that we make sure that kids get to play, and we make sure that there isn't that kid who always gets inserted late and never gets their mandatory play. This is telling coaches, hey, they don't get it this game, guess what? They're going to get it next game, and they will get their mandatory play for the next game. So be very conscious of this. Get your substitutions in early, as quick as you can. If a league believes that you as a manager or coach are purposely not playing players their mandatory play limits, that league can suspend you if they choose. Do we have any other questions about softball? Okay, okay. On time limits, the home team will get their last at bat right. Only if they are not leading. So say the time limit, say it's a majors game, 2-hour time limit. We hit the 2 hours during the first half of the 4th inning. We get through the first half of the 4th inning, and the home team is ahead. The home team will not bat because they've won the game. There's nothing they can do to add to it. However, if they are behind, we absolutely bat the home team. Mandatory play rule for both baseball and softball the same? Absolutely, yes. And it's the same for minors, majors, intermediate baseball, juniors baseball, and senior softball. So yes, it is for both AA and AAA. So make sure your players get in the game.
Can I just say something?
Absolutely.
We have some Spanish speaking families here. Let me just ask them real quick if they have any questions in Spanish.
Go right ahead.
Si tienen alguna pregunta, por favor pregunten ahorita para que yo les pueda contestar. Okay. I think nobody seems to have a question.
Okay. Let's move on. This is the last part of our presentation. It has a lot of very important stuff for you as coaches and managers. Let's talk a couple things about the umpire. And umpires cannot overturn another umpire's call. And it's written into the rule book. No umpire should criticize, seek to reverse, that should be, or interfere with another umpire's decision unless asked to do so by the umpire making it. This is a misunderstanding that sometimes coaches have. I'll have a coach come up to me and say, Jim, oh my God, you saw that play. your partner, he blew it. You've got to do something. You've got to correct it. I can't correct it. It is in the rule book that I cannot overrule another umpire, even if that other umpire is a youth. Um, so know that. Second, if a youth umpire is used, and I went through this before, you need an adult umpire on the game, or you need a league assigned adult game coordinator. No exceptions to that. We want to protect those kids. It is the sole responsibility of the umpire in chief to determine whether play should be suspended due to weather conditions or whether it gets too dark. So there's sometimes that we will suspend a game, and the coach, usually it's the coach who's behind in the game, will say, no, we still got light. It's our decision. We're looking out for the safety of the kids. It's not because we want to get home. We do, but everybody wants to get home after a long game. But it's just because we are looking out for the safety of those kids. We will also be the one to determine if that game that has been suspended, say for rain, will be resumed. A good umpire will talk to the managers and will try to build a consensus. Okay, let's talk about this is especially for you coaches and managers. You're showing up to a game, and these are some things that you need to be aware of. So you show up to the game and you're going to have your pregame warm-ups. There are only 3 adults that are allowed on the field. This is for both softball, baseball, and all levels, including minors. There can only be 3 adults on the field in the dugout or the bullpen. Some of you may be blessed with having, you're a manager and you have 4 adults who can act as your coaches. Great. Just know that when you show up to the game, only 2 of them are going to go on the field, even during the pregame. So one of the things that we do as umpires is we walk onto the field. The first thing I do is I do a scan of safety, and then I do a scan of how many adults are out there. Your catcher, if your catcher is warming up a pitcher or doing infield, outfield practice near a coach with a bat, they have to have a helmet on with a dangling throat guard, baseball and softball, all levels. All players holding a bat or near a bat must be wearing a batting helmet. So just know, bats and batting helmets go together. They pick up a bat, they already should have a helmet on. At some point, you will need to put all of your bats and batting helmets and catcher's helmets outside the dugout for inspections. The umpires are actually required, doesn't always happen. In our league, we do. Umpires are required to inspect all the equipment. Even if the equipment is not going to be used, if it's in the dugout, it must be inspected. It must come out. We as umpires will never walk into your dugout and take equipment out. We don't want the perception that, somebody's saying, oh my God, my watch is gone. I saw that umpire go in there. We will never go in your dugout to take equipment out. We will never go through bags, but we will stand outside the fence and go, hey, there's a bat there, bring it out. There's a bat. And if a player says, oh, I'm not going to use that bat, we will say, bring it out. It was in the dugout. So if your players don't want their equipment inspected, have it outside the dugout and don't bring it into the game. Home team should provide the umpire with 2 to 3 new baseballs or softballs for the game. Have extras ready, because sometimes very quickly we can go through 2 or 3 softballs, baseballs, and we're standing around waiting for more baseballs and softballs. Have your lineup cards filled out and ready. I can't tell you how many games I umpire that are delayed, cutting into the time of the players playing, because coaches don't have lineup cards filled out. When you fill out your lineup card, do not tear them apart. Do not give one of the copies to anybody. Keep those lineup cards together. Umpires are the ones who tear them apart. So if you want to show the lineup card to the scorekeeper, please go ahead. Just don't tear one out for them. Lineup card should be fully filled out. Fill out your team name, the date, whether it's home or away, that you're the home or the away team. Fill out, you as a manager, fill out your entire name. Why do I want to know that? Well, if something happens during the game, I may have to file a report, but that's not really the reason for me. The reason for me is I want to know what your name is because I want to, from the beginning of that game at that plate meeting, I want to start talking to you by using your first name. And whenever I call out to you, I'm never going to say, hey, coach, hey, manager. I'm going to say, hey, Eva, can I talk to you for a minute? That's what I'm going to do. And I hope that you remember my name. And instead of going, hey, Blue, you go, hey, Jim. When we're on a first name basis, we're going to be friendlier with each other. And that's what we want to be in front of these kids. Each player on your lineup should have a minimum of a first initial and a full last name. The last names are what's most important. Don't just put their first name and a first name and a last initial. I would like a full name, but if you want to just do a first initial and a last name, that's good. Put their jersey numbers. And for those starters, put their positions and put their position by number. Don't put SS for shortstop, put 6. Don't include the names of players who are not at the field yet. Even though you know little Jimmy's going to show up 5 minutes late, don't put Jimmy on the lineup card. When Jimmy shows up, if you want Jimmy to play, and by the way, that is completely up to you as a manager. Any player who shows up late, it is up to the manager whether they want to insert that player in the game that day or not. I would hope you do it because generally it's not the kid's fault that they're late. And generally it's not even the parents' fault. Listen, we got busy parents, kids doing various sports, people are working. It's, we're happy that they show up to the games. And so if that kid shows up late, just call time, tell the lineup, tell the umpire, hey, so-and-so showed up, and we will put them in the lineup. We're going to have our plate meeting. Our plate meeting is going to start 5 minutes before game time. There's only going to be managers there. The coaches are going to be in the dugout along with all of the players. You can bring team captains if you want. That's optional. But no coaches and players are going to be out in the bullpen. None of them are going to be out on the field. You're not going to have a player out there swinging a bat. You're not going to have them playing catch. They will be in the dugout. We will exchange lineup cards. We're going to introduce ourselves. That's when I will start ripping off the copies of the lineup cards. Bottom copy goes back to the coach who filled it out because that's usually the copy that's the hardest to read, and you should know your own lineup anyway. Next copy will go to the other coach. One will go to the official scorekeeper. So know that the umpire will make sure the official scorekeeper gets that lineup. And then the top copy, the only official lineup copy, is the one the umpire will keep. We will ask you if your players are properly and legally equipped to play the game of Little League softball or baseball. You will answer yes. If you do not answer, we will not have a game. You cannot just nod your head yes. It has to be a verbal yes. When you say yes, what are you saying? You are saying, yes, none of my players are wearing jewelry. None of my players have illegal bats. None of my players have equipment that shouldn't be in a Little League game. So we got to silence somebody here. That's what asking you whether your players are properly and legally equipped means. Now the onus of responsibility is on you. The umpires will go over the ground rules for the field and any expectations. Now we've started the games. Know that the managers and coaches must remain in the dugout or at their base coaching positions. They can't be wandering around the field. They can't be wandering outside the dugout, talking to parents. They can't be wandering down behind the plate to see what the strike zone is. They need to be in the dugout. Coaches and managers need to be in that dugout. So you can't be on a bucket sitting outside the dugout. You can't be standing outside the dugout. You need to be with your full body inside that dugout. There must be, if you have a player in the dugout, there must be an adult at all times. If I look over and I see a dugout that doesn't have an adult, I will stop the game and we won't resume until there is an adult in that dugout. Cell phones. Listen, the only reason for you to have a cell phone out is if you're a first responder and you're responding to a call, let us know ahead of time if you're a first responder. We will respect your right to be able to use that phone. Otherwise, you can only use a cell phone for a scoring app. Some people use Game Changer, for example, but that can only be accessed on a phone inside the dugout. You cannot take that phone out on the field. And if we see you communicating, talking on that cell phone, texting somebody, we have the right to eject you from the game. I will always warn you, but know that you can't be using cell phones. If the field has gates on the dugouts, you got to keep them closed during play. Players cannot handle bats in the dugout. They can't be standing there. If they're the next at bat, they can't be standing there holding the bat. When it's their time at bat, they go over, they pick up the bat, and they exit the dugout. Managers, coaches, and players, you shouldn't be talking with fans and parents. Do we enforce this strictly during the regular season? No. But I will tell you this, get used to it because it will be enforced during All-Stars and TOCs. And listen, you've got enough concentrating on the game. You don't want to be distracted by parents coming over and constantly talking to you. Parents, fans, extra coaches not in the dugout can't relay information to you. In other words, you can't have that fourth coach who's not going to be out on the field with you. You can't have them standing behind the plate, watching the strike zone and then coming to you half innings and reporting to you. You can't do that. If you have a scorebook kept outside the dugout, by rule, I hate to say this, but by rule, you can't be communicating with your scorekeeper outside the dugout. Again, are we strict about this in the regular season? Not really at all. But that will absolutely be enforced during the postseason. I highly recommend, and when I coached and managed, I always kept the scorebook in the dugout, so I had that information with me. Have the pitcher and catcher ready to go out for warm-up pitches between innings. It's the thing that takes the most playing time away from players is all of us standing around waiting for a catcher to get their gear on. If the catcher is putting on their gear, have another player with a catcher's mask go out and warm up the pitcher. Or what's legal now in the regular season, coaches can do that. You don't have to wear equipment. You can get hit by the ball. That's up to you. But you folks can go out and warm up the pitcher. Have somebody go out there quickly. When the third out is made of a half inning, that's when the clock begins, per rule, to the next half inning. And in the rule book, the rule is we begin pitching to the next batter 1 minute after the third out is made. Do we ever hit that? Rarely do we, but that's what we try to do. If we end up spending 3 to 5 minutes in between innings and we have a time limit, guess what? at least a quarter of your game has now been spent during warm-ups and not actually playing the game. Rule 803 stipulates that a pitcher is allowed no more than 8 pitches, taking no longer than 1 minute. Don't have your players chase after foul balls, leaving the dugout. Keep them in the dugout. That's where they belong. There's enough kids at games who will go running after balls. Questions about judgment calls during the game. This is Rule 9.02a. We don't make this stuff up. This is in the rule book. Any umpire's decision which involves judgment, such as but not limited to whether a batted ball is fair or foul, whether a pitch is a strike or a ball, or whether a runner is safe or out, is final. No player, manager, coach, or substitute shall object to any such judgment. And objecting includes both verbal, oh, come on, Blue, that was a strike, and physical. Oh, are you kidding me? You can't do that. You can't do that. You're also, remember, we're teaching these kids how to behave. That's not how we behave. I promise as an umpire, I won't behave like that. If a coach or a manager makes mistakes, don't do that if you disagree with what we do. Now, again, you can't argue balls and strikes. You can't argue, fair or foul. You can't argue safe or out. Did the ball get there first or did the runner's foot get there first? You can't question that, but there are a lot of things that you can question. For example, you thought your player tagged another runner and the umpire didn't see that. You can talk to us about it. So how do you challenge a call? Here's how you do it. And here's how you guarantee that you will have the most success at it with an umpire. So remain in the dugout and ask for time. It can't be a coach. It needs to be the manager. If a coach comes up to me and says, hey, he pulled his foot there, I'm going to simply say, Coach, I will be happy to talk to your manager about this. I'm not going to be talking to each coach and the manager. I only speak for the manager, to the manager. So as a manager, request time. Hey, Jim, can I talk to you? I'll call time and I'll let you come talk to me anytime. You will then go to the umpire who made the call. Don't go to the adult if a youth made the call. Go to whoever made the call or should have made the call. A good umpire will meet you halfway. We're not going to make you walk all the way out to us. We're going to meet you halfway, and we're actually going to guide you to a neutral area away from everybody. So don't start questioning or yelling at us before you get to us. You're never going to yell at us, but wait till you get to us before you start talking. So once you reach us in a calm and collected voice, because that's how I'm going to talk to you, the manager will ask the umpire a question about the call. For example, and this is the best thing that you can do, is ask a question. Didn't the first baseman pull his foot? Did the runner on second interfere with my shortstop making a play on a batted ball? Shouldn't that be interference? No, I just realized I have a low battery. Well, that would have been exciting if all of a sudden everything went blank. Or I thought my fielder tagged that runner. What did you see? So ask us questions. We're going to answer your questions. If you have another question, ask that question. And we're going to, in a calm manner, have a discussion. That's the ideal thing that'll happen. You'll see that umpires will listen to you a lot better if you're not heated and you're not demanding things. The manager may ask the umpire, hey, can you get help with that? Now, many times the umpire will say, no, that was my call. I saw it. I'm 100% sure of what I saw. But listen, if a coach comes out to me and is respectful, and if I have any kind of doubt in my mind, I'll say, sure, I'll go ask my fellow umpire, but I don't have to. So if you ask the umpire to go ask for help and they say, no, I had it, 100%, I had the angle, I'm confident of my call, I'm not going to ask for help. You're going to return to your dugout and play continues. If, however, you believe that I misinterpreted a rule, say I didn't call an infield fly, and you talk to me and you say, hey, shouldn't that have been an infield fly? And I go, no, because infield flies are only when there's no outs and there's one out. Well, that's a misinterpretation of the rule. You have a right to protest what I just ruled there. So if I say to you, yeah, I'll go get help, and I go to my partner, I'll send you back into your dugout, and then I'll talk with my partner, and because my partner can't overrule me, he or she can't tell me, hey, you got that wrong, you got to change your call. I will listen to what they say, and then I'll make the final call. I'll come out, I'll make safe, I'll make out, and we move on from there. Again, unless you think there's been a misinterpretation of a playing rule, and then you have every right to protest. Okay, you can protest a game, but what can you protest over? You can't protest those judgment calls. Oh, he called a strike, but that should have been a ball. Can't do that. But if you believe there's a violation or misinterpretation of a playing rule, you can protest. When do you protest? Before the next play. Once the next play pitch happens, you can't protest anymore. That's gone. You can also protest an ineligible pitcher or player on the opposing team. In other words, all of a sudden you realize, wait a second, we're playing Martinez. I know that kid. That kid plays for Clayton Valley. You can protest that, but it must be protested before, at the end of the game, the umpires walk off the field. Again, can't protest judgment calls. Let's talk about appeals. This is one of those areas where we see a lot of problems because coaches or players don't know how to do a proper appeal. I would say take one of your practices this year and teach your players how to do a proper appeal. So what is a live ball appeal? It's an action by a defensive player. It's not by a coach, it's only by a player, claiming a rules violation by the offense. What are the most common live ball appeals? Missed a base. Hey, he went past second base and didn't touch second base. Didn't tag up properly. He went back to tag up, but he actually never tagged the base. Or failing to touch each base in order. In other words, a runner runs from first to second, starts to third, and then is going to run back to first. They have to retouch second. What if they don't retouch second? Those are the kind of live ball appeals that we see. When must you appeal? Before the next pitch, play, or attempted play. It can only happen when the ball is live. So if time is out and you try to appeal at a base, the umpire is going to look at you and not make a call. So it must be when the ball is live, and it must be by a player. The coach can't come out to the umpire and say, hey, he missed first base. I'm going to say, I can't do anything about that, coach, because you need to know how the appeal process is done. If you look down at the bottom, it says umpire cannot help. In the rule book, we cannot help you on an appeal. So you can't appeal when time is out. It must be a live ball. Know that because it's a live ball, if you're appealing something at first base and you have a runner at third base, that runner can steal home. It's a live ball. What is an appeal? It must be an unmistakable act. Touching a base in possession of the ball, tagging a runner, verbal. holding the glove up, the ball up, telling the umpire what they're appealing. So holding the ball in the glove and stepping on the base and going, he didn't touch first base. That is an unmistakable act. Tagging the runner, he didn't touch first base. That's an unmistakable act. So teach your players how to do that. Okay, Don eventually got onto this meeting. Don and I sort of thought about this clinic, and we thought that one of the areas that we wanted to talk a little bit about, and this is actually our last segment of this clinic, is what are those things that we see over and over in games that are common safety violations and concerns? And know that as an umpire, my two main concerns in a game is that kids have fun and that they're safe. And so I'm always going to be looking out for safety. So what are the things that we see over and over and over that we wish we didn't see over and over and over when we umpire games? Illegal or damaged equipment, illegal bats. BPF marked bats are illegal in Little League. They have to be USA bat if you're in the minors or majors. So we see illegal bats. We see helmets that are damaged, that don't have the proper padding, or that are missing or have loose screws. Helmets are made to protect the head of the player, and you should be very concerned about that. At one of your practices, have your players lay out their equipment. All the players, have them lay out their bats and their helmets, and you go through and check for illegal equipment, damaged equipment, dented bats, cracked bats, helmets without padding, and make sure that that player knows what's the problem is and ask them not to bring that to any more games. We also see helmet C-flaps. This is in baseball generally, and it's that flap that covers the cheek of a player, giving extra protection there. According to Little League rules, the C-flap manufacturer has to match the manufacturer of the helmet. You cannot use a generic C-flap, or you can't put a Rawlings on a Rawlings C-flap on a Boomba helmet. So make sure those match. Catcher's helmets without dangling throat guards. At the beginning of last season, I actually went to Dick's Sporting Goods and I bought 3 dangling throat guards to keep in my umpire bag to give out to teams if they didn't have one, so that we could at least have a game. I don't have any left. I'll have to go do it again this year. So make sure that your catcher's helmets have a dangling throat guard. No exceptions to that rule, none whatsoever. Whenever your catchers are warming up pitchers or taking infield, outfield practice near a bat, they have to have a catcher's helmet on. We're protecting the player. We're protecting their head. Players with bats, not wearing batting helmets. You know, doing wiffle balls with a bat without a batting helmet. Okay, if they have a bat or if they're near a bat, got to have a batting helmet on. Male catchers without athletic cups. I have no idea why a catcher would want to do that, but we see it. Fields without breakaway bases. Don and I have talked over this many times. It's our policy to absolutely not umpire a game in which there are no breakaway bases. It is a Little League rule. So when you go to a new field, hey, go out and check the bases. Make sure they aren't breakaways. If they're not breakaways, you have every right to protect your players and say, sorry, we're not going to have a game here today until, you know, you get breakaway bases. Time and again, we see dugouts that don't have an adult in them. You need somebody supervising those kids. Always has to be adult in the dugout. players handling bats, generally probably anywhere from 2 to 10 times a game. I'm saying, hey, players, please put down the bats, put down the bats, put down the bats. I have video of even in Major League Baseball games of batters with bats in the dugouts hitting another player and taking them out of the game. And these are Major League dugouts, which are huge and adults, and they even hit each other with bats. So no handling of bats. Managers and coaches bullying or verbally abusing players. We do not want to see this, and we will not allow it to happen. So listen, you've got to talk positive to your kids. If a kid misses a fly ball, don't yell at them. Hey, catch that next time. That was so easy. Why did you miss that? Come on. You want to stay in this game, you're going to have to field those. Do not do that. Ever, ever. That is bullying. That is verbally abusing. Give them positive feedback. Tell them, hey, next time, use both hands. When you get under the ball, use both hands. You'll get it next time. Give them something positive. Listen, when these kids screw up, they know they screwed up. They know they screwed up in front of all their friends, in front of their parents, maybe their grandparents, and a whole, stadium of adults. They know that. Don't add on to it. And it's Little League rules. Another safety concern we see are pitchers pitching in both Little League and travel ball in the same season. Now, there's nothing actually in the Little League rule book, and Don can correct me if I'm wrong here, that there is a way to track this, but you should. If you know that you have a player who's a pitcher, who's playing travel ball and playing Little League, find out how many innings they pitched in their travel ball game and make sure that you follow the same guidelines as if that travel ball game was the same as Little League. And if they pitched 2 days ago, then and they pitched a whole game in a travel ball game, don't let them pitch 2 days later. Look out for the safety of that kid. If their parents won't do it, if their travel ball coach won't do it, then you do it. We have to have people looking out for the safety of those kids. Don, I know you're on. Do you have anything to add to that in particular or other safety concerns and violations?
Hey, Jim, thanks. So I hope you can hear me, but let's talk about, add on a couple things about safety. In the back of the Little League rule book is the Little League safety code. So Jim mentioned about checking your players' equipment. It's actually one of the items. It says in the safety code that equipment's checked at every practice and every game. It's really important. The way I feel about equipment is we want to give our players the best opportunity we can to play with equipment that fits the Little League game, whether it's baseball or softball. And putting them at risk is just not something we should have in our activities. So spend the time and then explain to your players. Have your players perhaps inspect each other's equipment and share things they found and talk about the reasons why some things are safe and other equipment needs not to be used. I think this is a good area that we'll remember that Little League baseball and softball is only partially about playing the game, right? It's the things our players are going to take away from participating, being on a Little League team, the things they're going to take away that aren't things that happen during the game. It's the little life lessons. The other thing about, I'll add one more about safety is there's a little bit of a saying that when something happens, like if I come onto a field and I see players catchers warming up pitchers without proper equipment, or players swinging bats without helmets. And I talked to a manager or coach, what it really comes down to is a comment that, hey, manager, why is the safety of your players more important to me as the umpire than to you as the responsible adult who's actually has day-to-day responsibility for those players? So if you think about that, right, we're not going to have discussions about safety during the game because you've already adopted the same responsibility that I'm trying to impress when I'm just showing up for a game. So think about that. Safety of our players is critical. I want to add one other thing to what is on this last slide that Jim talks about bullying or verbally abusing players. All volunteers in Little League this year are required to complete the Safe Sports child protection, child abuse awareness training. And if you do that, there'll be a long section about the various elements of child abuse. And they certainly, one of Little League's big concerns is, sexual abuse of children. But it goes beyond that. It goes to the point of how we as adults can create that positive, best environment where our players feel safe. I personally have had experiences where coaches on the field, as Jim kind of casually described, are yelling at players for missing a ground ball. Or, they make a base running error and the coach from the coach's box is berating them for making a simple base running error. Those things under Little League policy starting this year are not allowed. Any kind of verbal abuse, any kind of other abuse that's defined in the child protection awareness training is not acceptable. And Eva and her board will handle, volunteers who don't comply with the Little League policy in a way that's appropriate for your league through some sort of discipline or removal of your position. And we can all learn from how we behave as Little League volunteers. But most importantly is making sure that our players are not only in a place that they feel safe, but that mentally and emotionally they're safe, that they feel like it's a Little League practice, a Little League game is a place they can come to express themselves, and that you as the leader, that you're responsible for them, that they can share with you to help make them better during the game. I really encourage you to complete that training, think about it, have discussions with each other about what we're all trying to do with our players, this year. So, Jim, those are kind of my comments. If you have other things, you got an open mic, I'll talk forever. But
yeah, we know. Well, final questions, and then I just have a couple slides. It'll just be just a couple minutes of wrapping this all up. So do folks have any questions? Anything we've covered?
Yes, I have one question pertaining to the 8 fielders. Are you able to position those 8 players any way you like?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Okay, that's what I need to know. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I have a question about stealing bases.
Sure.
Last season, my team went to the TLC.
And which level was this?
I'm sorry?
Which level was this?
I think we were AA last year.
Was it baseball or softball?
Baseball.
Okay.
And the team we went up against, they were stealing all the way to home. And all season, we didn't teach our kids how to steal. So I'm wondering how come we're not teaching the kids how to play when it comes down to an actual tournament?
Well, I can't answer that. I don't know what your, what Richmond Little League, what your rules are. In terms of the postseason, I can tell you that TOCs will be played by interleague rules. So in minor baseball, and this wouldn't cover AA, this would cover AAA because that's the level that's played. Or no, in baseball you do both, don't you?
Yeah, there's AA TLCs.
Yeah, and softball is just a AAA. So you will be playing by the interleague rules, and for minor baseball, you can steal any base.
So Jim, I wanted to clarify, and I think what's
Sure.
so so for the thing is that when we play TLCs, it's not a different, it is a different age range than what we have. Our AA, we weren't stealing, but when you do TLCs, you're going by the interleague rules, and it's based on age. Like, it's an age group. It's not, before we were doing the younger kids at AA, it wasn't based on skill level, especially like for your team, Carlos, because you guys came as a unit. And so you guys were playing under AA rules. However, when you're going to the TLC, it's a tournament and it's slightly different rules. So because it's not exactly, it's not all the way aligned, because you may have some kids on your team that are like, I don't know how to explain it.
I can.
Okay, go ahead, Marshall.
Okay, so for years, Richmond had been under what I would formally call pony rules, where everything was bracketed by ages. The main issue with that is it always makes sense until TOCs, and then we face teams that absolutely crush us. Because the main rules of pony does not match up with the same rules of Little League. So Little League, in this case, there's a lot of leagues that their minor league division has nothing but 10-year-olds. Just to, pat someone on the back, Oakland is a huge Little League. So it's what ends up happening at that is that their AAs could end up being nothing but 10-year-olds. And what our teams were last year were pretty much beginner AAs, and they kind of ran into a buzzsaw. The main thing that we want to address that from last year to this year is that we, especially with this rules clinic, so everyone can understand what you can and cannot do, is take this information, go back and get ready for practice. And when these teams come around next time, okay, well, I can go to this base, this base, this base because of this level.
Okay.
So, hey, Jim, let me
Go
comment.
ahead, Don.
So certainly, the discussion about appropriate levels of teams that get entered into the TOC in the various divisions is one that needs to happen. And I think this is a great topic to take up with Jeff Shue. He's really responsible for the 60-foot baseball divisions. But there are leagues, certainly, yeah, if a league is really large, they may have their 8 and 9-year-olds playing in a machine pitch division, and then their AA or their second level of minors is made up of really good 9-year-olds and all their 10-year-olds. And then the AAA division is made up of 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds who have actually played kid pitch before, or maybe have 2 seasons of minors already. So there are leagues. Some of the smaller leagues don't participate at every level of TOC. because of those things, and they don't want their team to, go and play, and then it's a, 25-0 3-inning game. Those are things to certainly discuss with Jeff and talk about openly, so that those things work. Now, when you get to all-stars, of course, those are age-specific divisions. And so the expectation is the teams are formed from the best players in those age groups. Again, larger leagues have more kids to pick from. That's kind of just the way it is. So don't keep those frustrations locked up. Let's get those out on the table early so we can have the best TOCs that we can.
Okay, let's wrap this up. Some final thoughts. Sort of what we've been talking about here at the end. A few things to just sort of, think about and try to guide you during your season. Who assures a safe and fun game for the kids? It's the adults, it's the managers, it's the coaches, it's the umpires, it's also the parents, how they react. But listen, it's the adults who set the example, and the adults must work together. And this is something Don's brought into, especially with District 4 umpiring, is umpires and coaches are not enemies. We're not antagonists. We're really doing the same thing. We're both there for the kids. Also remember that Little League is a youth leadership program that simply uses softball and baseball. We could just as easily be using hockey or volleyball. And what we're trying to do ultimately is to teach life lessons to kids, to build stronger individuals and communities. That really is what Little League is about. And if you go to Rule 1, and I put the first ellipsis dots because you can read it in either Little League Baseball or Little League Softball. In all divisions is a game. That's the first sentence. It's a game. It's a game for who? It's a game for kids. So focus on the experience, not the outcome, not the winning and losing. What was the experience those kids faced? Did they have a good time? Did they learn to be better and stronger individuals? I want to show this final video, and this is from a minor league game. And you can see that there's a coach pitch. You have an umpire there. You have an umpire over here. You have your coaches. And what I want you to do is throughout this entire video, I only want you to watch this kid right here, this catcher. Watch him. Keep watching him. That should never be the experience at a Little League game. Doesn't matter whether he was obstructing or whatever. He got hit right here. He goes down, shoulder right into him. He goes down. You actually hear a thud of when his head hits the plate. And then the player rolls up over his head. He comes up, staggers a little bit, holds his head, bends over in pain. Holds his head, bends over in pain. Holds his head, bends over. As 10 adults are arguing on the field. Only now does a coach seem to ask him if he's all right, but doesn't even wait for an answer or to observe him. Bends over again, holds his head. Holds his head. Holds his head. Bends over again. Only now, as a parent is yelling, "Let's play ball," you have a coach seemingly go over and trying to find out if he's actually hurt or not. So this is focusing on the outcome, not the experience. It's a negative example, but it's something that we never, ever want to see in Little League. Okay, so this is the final slides, and these are contacts. So Jeffrey Shue is the Assistant District Administrator for Small Diamond Baseball. He runs the minor and major interleague baseball program. So if you have any issues, what you need to do is talk to him. There will be I don't know when it is, but there is a scheduling meeting where all the games get scheduled. You need representatives there so that Richmond can get all the games it needs to get. If you're doing softball, then you need to know about Phil Raines, who's the ADA for softball. He runs the softball interleague program. Again, he too will have a scheduling meeting. If you have intermediate or junior baseball, then Grayson Lawrence is the one who is the ADA for teenage baseball and runs the interleague program there. And then finally, Don and myself. Don is the District 4 UIC. If you have any umpire-related issues during the season, please contact Don. And me, if you have any issues over rules or lack of clarity over rules, or you seem to think there's issues that the interleague program the rules aren't being applied properly, talk to that district administrator for that, but also feel free to contact me. Email me anytime, or if you just have a rules question, I'm happy to answer you. That's what we're here for in District 4. Okay, thank you all. You folks are absolutely on the right track, and I'm really happy for what's going on in Richmond. And I would say if you ever want to know about positive coaching, just go to one of Eva's games. One of the most positive coaches that I've got to umpire around. So that's it. Eva, if you have anything to Martell you want to close with?
I just want to say thank you, Jim, for coming in and doing this training with us. This is, I think, our first time, and we really appreciate you putting this awesome presentation together. And to all the coaches, this was an amazing turnout. Thank you guys for coming. And yes, like we're trying to be better. So reach out with any questions. Download the app. I put the link in the chat, but you can also look for it on your smartphone, the Little League International Little League Rulebook. And yeah, if you have any questions, or you can literally type in District 4 Little League and it'll pop up for you, and you can look through all the stuff that you need and find lots of things, schedules, resources, all kinds of stuff. Martel, anything you want to say, Daniela? Thank you too, Don.
Just real quick, this is a very monumentous moment for us. I don't know if we've ever gotten 20 plus people to show up for anything Little League wise. So thank you for the ground team for marketing, especially Jim. As soon as you offered this, I said, let's go. you said yes and you pulled through for us, and we're greatly appreciative of it.